Hola a todos y bienvenidos a un nuevo video en nuestro canal de YouTube y nuestro IGTV. El día de hoy tenemos el privilegio de estar junto a Jason Robinson, un miembro de Elite Sports Equity y nuevo dueño copropietario de los Barcelona Dragons de la European League of Football. El día de hoy me acompaña mi querido Diego Dupont. Diego, muy buenas, ¿cómo estás? ¿Qué tal todo?
Buenas, Luciano. Buenas también a el señor Jason Robinson que está con nosotros para la entrevista del día de hoy.
And now, Jason, thank you very much for being with us. How are you? How are you doing today?
I'm good. I'm good. As I said in the pre-show wrap up or huddle rather, I'm still on the way to Barcelona, having some difficulties traveling stateside with some delayed flights and some reroutes, but it's all good. I'm looking forward rather to getting with the team and getting with the front office and leading us into the season. As you guys may know, we start on June 3rd against the Helvetic Guards, coached by Norm Chow, American football hero in the States. So pretty big game there. So just getting ready, man, getting ready for the kickoff and excited to start this journey off. You know, it's been a long off season on the business side of things, but I think that as we get closer to competition, now the fun starts to be had and a little bit more of the more still business, but you know, you get to see the fruits of the labor out there on the field and really, you know, work towards building this thing up the way we want it to be.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Sorry to hear about your travel misfits, but we are all very excited for the start of the new season. So if that's okay with you, we'll start this over. Diego, would you like to kick us off?
Just first question for Mr. Robinson is, what is Elite Sports Equity and how would you define your brand?
Yeah, so Elite Sports Equity is the investment vehicle that was formed to acquire and operate the Barcelona Dragons franchise. We started this really to get this deal done, and it was something we needed a vehicle to do it with. Through that, though, we found some greater opportunities in this market at large. So I would say our goal as a brand is to find your smaller to mid cap sports franchises. You know, you think about the Dragons, you think about teams throughout rural Germany, South America, potentially, that just haven't gotten the resources and tools needed to create that same vibe that some of the other franchises have started and have been able to do. You know, look at what Mexico's been able to do. Obviously, we all know about what the CFL has been able to do over the years. So we want to be able to kind of help these small to mid-cap sports franchises adopt technology, adopt the resources that we have, and ultimately create their own ecosystem online that they can be profitable with.
That's awesome. I see. And tell me, you're a newly born business. Why put your focus on this entrepreneurship to begin with?
Sure. So I've been looking at investing in the international American football market for years. I actually was very close to starting a league, actually, excuse me, a league over in England, in London. Well, based in London, but it was throughout England back in 2019. And it was called the United Kingdom American Football League. It ended up getting blocked by BAFA, British American Football Association out there. So I had been already into this and kind of looking into the space. I had some unique access because of my company, Playbook 5. So when I found out about the European League of Football, or yeah, I had an ex-teammate of mine, Chase Baker, who was coaching over there, and he put it on my radar. And you know, it looked right. It looked like a league that was posed and positioned well for the long term. It looked like a league that was really trying to capture the essence of American football. It also looked like a league that looked interested, and it still seems to be interested in providing the right aesthetic that is needed for people to watch these games online, which I think is a challenge for a lot of the international teams. Is, you know, the only comparison for American football is the NFL or the CFL, but mostly just the NFL. So, or college football, right? So when you think about every league and team and organization under that, when it comes to the screen, it has to match that a little bit. It has to meet the eye's expectations. And I really saw that with the ELF. And when I noticed that, it just made sense for us to go in and try to find an opportunity to be involved there.
Okay, and the most important question in all Europe, why Barcelona and not another city or team in European football?
Well, you know, have you guys ever been to Barcelona?
That's enough of an answer, I'd say.
No, I mean, it's a great market, man. It's a great market. It's a great place. You know, it was solid for us personally as American investors. They have a decent and substantial expat community. The tourism numbers are off the charts, especially during the months that we play games. There's a lot of overlap between American culture, somewhat, and Spanish culture and European culture. But also it's a really good team. You know, this is a really unique opportunity to invest into one of the top 4 teams in the league. You know, be it as it may, you know, we've lost a number of players, Zach Edwards, Cal Sweet, and the likes from last season. But let's make no mistake about it. This team was 8-5 last year, went to the semifinals, and lost to the champions. And everyone else that is now, the team sits at 17 teams, be 18 next year when Madrid comes online. Everyone else is an expansion team, right? They don't really, when we talk about Paris, that's a question mark. Yeah, they have some great players, and I know their ownership group has done a great job with accumulating the resources that they need, and I'm sure they'll have a strong franchise. But by and large, it's a question mark. Munich's a question mark. A lot of these franchises are question marks throughout Europe, and I think Barcelona's ability to compete on the pitch definitely gave us confidence. And then the other side of that is the city of Barcelona has proven to be a place where sports can flourish and fans will get behind sports. And this is in no way comparing what we are doing to FC Barcelona and the likes, but those are benchmarks for success. When you think about people rallying behind quality play, rallying behind quality brands, rallying behind their local sports team, I mean, I don't, and also I'll say this, the last thing is, when I was a kid, my dad's a high school football coach in the United States. And growing up, a lot of his players would go over to the NFL Europe and play back what was NFL Europe. And we all had the video games. Madden had the NFL Europe franchises on there. And my dad had players that played for the Barcelona Dragons. So I would always play with the Barcelona Dragons. So there was a little bit of a personal connection to it. And I think everyone in the world, when they think about what was NFL Europe, remembers the Barcelona Dragons as a franchise and an entity. So I think we have a great team. And I'll say this too, we have a top 2 city in the ELF, I think, and we're not number 2. So that's just that.
Gotcha. Tell me, what are your plans as new owners of the franchise, both in the short and long term? What are your main priorities and goals?
Right. So in the short term, our goal is really to one, just, kind of latch on and support the existing operations. Excuse me. Like I said, the team has done really, really well on the pitch. We do want to be able to provide the technologies and the infrastructure that we believe can help propel the franchise to the next level. And I think strengthening our local fan base is something that we definitely need to do in the short term. I think we've done a great job, and the previous team and the ones that will stay over have done a great job up until now with kind of introducing what is American football and showing American football and what it is there. I think now, from a marketing perspective, we need to kind of develop on the narrative of American football and explain to people kind of why this is important, why this is something they should get on. Really, and the league kind of made it, fairly easy on us now with the introduction of the team in Madrid. I think we have enough, gunpowder to kind of go out there and say, hey, they're standing up a franchise in Madrid next year That's not for no reason. This is officially a battle for the Spanish region of American football. We have had a 3-year, would be a 3-year head start. Let's maintain that head start. So I think amplifying that message and getting the local community involved through the school systems, the local teams and organizations and the clubs, I think that's something that's very important. And in the long term, I mean, we want to be able to establish ourselves as a premier franchise within this league. You know, the franchise that attracts the best players, that attracts the top sponsors and the top front office personnel. And we have a ways to go in order to do those things. It will take time. It will take success on the pitch and also in the books to be able to make that true. But that is our goal. We see this as something that can be a staple, not just in Spain, but throughout the European region in American football. And I think when you point to some of the stuff I said earlier about the market, about the way the fans get behind sports in this particular market, there's a ton of opportunity for growth, a ton of opportunity for tourism. I think a lot of the sponsors that we're in talk with now, they see that, and we hope to bring our Rolodex, you know, which includes some of the top tier companies that have already been involved in the sports marketing space. We want to be the best. We want to be seen as the benchmark, certainly for the players in Europe. We want every kid in Europe to grow up and as they're playing in their club ball in England, in Switzerland, in Germany, in Austria. While we know that they'll always love their home teams because that's just the way people are. We want many of those kids and most of those kids to envision, you know, their first professional football experience being with the Barcelona Dragons and us being that team. And then we also, you know, as we continue to have the ability to bring American imports over, we want to make sure we're the best destination for them as well. We want to make sure that we're providing a high quality experience within the organization, within the communities that can bring players that, you know, will see us as an alternative to some of the other options out there, especially when you look at NIL right now in the United States, when so many players have, you know, transfers and then they sit in this transfer portal for years and, you know, they may not get picked up. Well, what does that look like if you can come play for the Barcelona Dragons and get some film and then put yourself back in draft contention? So the goals are large, as you can see. You know, we've thought about this thing and we have a huge plan. All of it starts this first game here against the Guards in this first week in the office. But all this stuff is attainable if we just step by step continue to execute on the plan.
Yes, obviously. And what do you think about European football? And how can you, as a franchise, bring more people to the sport in the region?
Yeah, so I mean, American football in Europe is extremely promising. Like I said, I've been trying to personally invest in this space for years. I think that there's sometimes a failed perspective on European football because the NFL Europe is no longer there. But I think what people don't realize is, and fail to realize sometimes, that NFL Europe created so much excitement that kind of continued to grow. And also the reasons why NFL Europe, you know, failed. They didn't have streaming, right? They didn't have, you know, all of this technology and connectivity that we now have today. All these ways teams can build a global brand and build a global audience. So I think that it's extremely promising from that regard, where they have the ability, we have the ability, so many other teams have the ability to share their brands and their way of play around the globe through these devices. I mean, look at us today. We're doing an interview was probably across, you know, 2 continents, you know, a couple countries, and we're all good, right? And we're all sharing our story. These type of things didn't exist in the past. So I think that with taking that into account, European football is very strong. It just needs to get more visibility, and more people need to come around to understanding that they're doing it. And obviously there's much room to grow. You know, it's not the native game throughout Europe, right? You know, there's football, you know, there's rugby, there's cricket in some places, netball in some places. There's so many other sports, basketball certainly, that people are playing. But I think when you look at the quality of play that the ELF has shown and showcased over the previous 2 seasons, and then you take into account that it's not the native sport, you have to wonder what it could look like once people like our group and others start to go take resources, improve the coaching, improve the instruction, provide the technology, provide a bridge over to the experts. I tell people all the time, as I've been going out and telling this story leading up to the season, I think that the American football in Europe is very, very similar to where football, soccer, as we call it in America, was 10, 15 years ago, right? You had the USL, you had the MLS, you had a couple teams that were getting some TV spots on ESPN, weren't quite full stands, but people were coming, the fan bases were coming, and then the ownership group started to get involved, and then they got a little bit more visibility and more resources. Then they get another TV contract, and then it just kind of grows and grows from there. And then eventually what happened was now the European coaches came over to America to help us. Once we laid the foundation, they kind of helped us build the game and showcase and grow the game in its purest form. I think the ELF and the opportunity in Europe is the same. And obviously we see ourselves as someone in that equation that's now going over to Europe as this thing has grown and shown to be something that's positive. And look, I'll say this, like, the NFL doesn't go places that they don't see value. Okay. So if there was nothing there, people wouldn't be there.
I agree. How do you feel like you can increase the local talent level, and is increasing your scouting capabilities in Spain and Europe in general among your main priorities? And sort of a multi-layered question here. How much do you feel like you will have to rely on local European leagues smaller than the ELF?
Yeah. So clear and short, we want the best players in Europe on our team. Like that's just a part of what we're trying to build. We want the absolute best players in Europe on our team, which means we're gonna have to find ways to help them find out about our program and show them what our franchise offers, as well as increasing our scouting throughout the region. Thankfully today with the internet and all this other stuff we have, man, we don't necessarily have to be boots on the ground everywhere. We can make connections. We can, we make a lot of connections through Instagram with players and connect there. And just getting these guys in our ecosystem and in our pipeline is very important. And with our connections to the NFL and the XFL, both in scouting departments, I think that players will naturally want to be a part of what we're building. And then hopefully we can help get players from that pipeline as well that maybe don't, stick in the NFL roster, like Josh Johnson, we signed this year from the Denver Broncos, which was a great pickup last week. We have a strong relationship with his receiver coach while he was in Denver for the Broncos. So we're able to find out more information about him and kind of accelerate that. So we do want to use our scouting resources to increase our talent pipeline. And, Spain and Europe are certainly a part of that. And we have to rely a lot on the local, ecosystem. We only get 4 Americans. We only get 7 Europeans. So the rest of our team have to be Spanish players. And what that means for us is that we have to not only cultivate relationships with that region or market and segment, but we also have to help develop them. We have to bring those same resources I'm talking about from the Denver Broncos, from Boise State. We have to get them to Spain and help these players learn the game better, help them play it at a high level, help them think like the pros that we need them to become. Because ultimately, as any recruiting area or any business, you have to own your own backyard. That's the number one thing you learn in college football recruiting is you have to own your own backyard. So for us, we have to have the best players in Spain playing for the Barcelona Dragons. And I think once we get our system fully implemented and our frameworks fully adopted, I think that won't be too difficult. There's still work to do. Obviously, with the team in Madrid, there is some competition in the market now, but I do think that we still have the best offerings, and we'll show that in the Spanish region, and certainly, like I said, top 4 at minimum throughout the entire European League of Football.
And how do you feel the NFL's investment in Europe and the big increase in games hall over there will help the development of the European League of Football?
No, man, it's huge. I think that to have our European audiences, our Spanish players see what is the equivalent of FIFA, right? I mean, the NFL is FIFA, if not larger, considering that it's only 32 teams and it still has the number one watched event in the world, be it the Super Bowl. So to have an organization of that magnitude continually invest and up the investment, where what started in London with a couple games, it's now become games in Mexico, games in Germany. I think it's huge. I think it shows that there is a market here. It shows that there's talent here, and it shows that the NFL wants to play a role in being a growth factor in both the market and the talent pool. So that's awesome. And as far as us in Barcelona, I mean, we want to attract the NFL game to Spain. And when I say Spain, we mean Barcelona. Camp Nou and FC just announced a new stadium renovation that will start. I believe it starts this week if it didn't start already. But it's starting soon upon completion of the last La Liga home game for FC. And I think things like that put us and those investments into the infrastructure give us a really good leg up to be a next potential landing pad or landing place for an NFL game. I think also the NFL's recently announced their global markets campaign, which, Spain is the Miami Dolphins and Chicago Bears. So two very, very strong markets that both have nonstop flights from Chicago to Barcelona, as well as from Miami to Barcelona here from the United States. So I think that is very, very strong. And I think that we can build a solid community around American football, leveraging the NFL's investment and energy here in Barcelona.
That's awesome. We've got two more questions for you. My last question will be, are there any plans to move the team from Terrassa to Barcelona eventually?
Yeah, so it's a great question. I mean, while we'll play our home games this year in Terrassa, we are the Barcelona Dragons, and we want to be as close to our fans and as possible, and we'll continue to improve that. I think right now at this point, while we haven't played a game in the stadium, the new stadium in Terrassa yet, we are very satisfied with the relationship that we've developed with the operators there, and we see some opportunities for near-term success. And this will be the team's first time playing this close to the city. So we've already proven that, we want to continue to inch towards, where our main fans are, right there in the city center in Barcelona. Terrassa Stadium, or the Olympic Stadium of Terrassa is 20 kilometers exactly from the city center. And it's about 2 blocks from a train stop, which is also amazing. So we feel like we'll do a very good job this year in getting our fans there, even more so than in the past. Obviously, we got to win some games, and that helps. Winning helps cure all. So once we put some points on the board, it will be even better for us. But to answer your question directly, yes, we want to be as close to Barcelona as possible as we continue to grow out this franchise.
Okay, the last question of this interview is, what is Playbook 5, and how, or if there are plans to implement this on Barcelona?
Yeah, so Playbook 5, favorite question, by the way. Thank you, guys. No, I'm joking. Playbook 5 is a virtual learning platform that allows athletes of all ages to study the game in virtual reality. And I'm not sure if you guys have used virtual reality or familiar, but what that allows for people to do is to step onto the field anywhere and study the game and learn the game. So we've partnered with some of the best coaches in America, some of the best players in America, and we'll start releasing content on our new content on our platform beginning this summer. And the whole goal with our new approach with Playbook 5 is, how can we help kids, amateur players, between the ages of 10 to 18, learn the game the right way. And when we talk about the right way, we're not talking about technique. We're not talking about throwing the ball. We're talking about the tactics, because a lot of the game is tactics. And I think that that's the biggest piece that ends up missing, in the international space is people spend so much time working on, because you need to, right? The blocking, the tackling, the throwing, the catching, and all of that's great. But all of that is only as good as if you know how to make the right decisions when you're throwing, blocking, tackling, catching. And that is the tactics, right? I also think that as we continue to kind of showcase the technology internationally, it will help us kind of bridge the gap between football, soccer players, as we call it in the United States, and American football players. I think that through studying the game, people can see the overlap there and the connection, and where it's very similar in some ways, right? The angles, the runs, it's very similar. It's different, no question about it. It's different. You can't pick your ball up in football and just go run down the sideline, more like rugby. But there are some similarities on the tactical and strategic side that we hope to unlock through helping people get access to our platform. And yes, we'll be launching it throughout Barcelona this summer. We'll also be leveraging this throughout Europe in general, getting it in front of as many players as possible. And we really want to have this technology help grow and stimulate the growth that's already there for the game of football, because for us, it's just more players, right? The more people that know it, the more players there are, the greater demand and for the game, and the greater supply as well, of players. So if we can do that, then we can stand up as many teams around the globe. And that's my goal. That's why I started this company in the first place is, when I came out of college in 2010, aging myself, finished at Boise State University. There just weren't enough opportunities to play American football. There weren't. There's the abundance of players who love this game, and they didn't have enough opportunities to play football because there's the NFL, there's the CFL. At the time, there was no ELF. You had if you were lucky enough to find a coach, you could find a team in Europe. Mexico hadn't quite developed it. So we need to develop more players so we can have more teams. And I think that at that point, we can really look at American football as a global sport. And the ELF is doing, and I said the European League of Football is doing an amazing job of carrying that flag from what has started in North America through the NFL and the CFL over to Europe. And I think that, when I look into the future for the league, and also in conjunction with what we're doing at Barcelona, but also at Playbook 5, I think we will look back on this moment and be like, and realize that we were right at the beginning of something special of standing up a strong, sustainable, tenured American football entity in the European League of Football. So I'm thankful that we can play a role in it.
Jason, this has been awesome. It's been a true privilege to have you with us today. Thank you very much. Diego, something else you would like to say, Jason?
No, thank you very much for this interview, and thank you for concede this interview to our media, and have I don't have the word now in this moment, but
best of luck in this
best of
adventure,
luck.
and
Yes,
go Dragons.
Yeah.
Best of luck in Barcelona Dragons.
No worries, man. Thank you guys, and do me a favor, if you guys can, send me a copy of this. I would love to get it out to our network as well and publish it when it's up. But also send me your addresses if you can. I would like to get you some Barcelona stuff when I get set up there, and get you guys some merch. So I need this to become the official team of Argentina, like I said. So Fernando, I need you to put a big Barcelona Dragons banner in the background and be our local ambassador. So I appreciate it.
We most certainly will. You can count on us for that. And seriously, thank you very much. We'll keep on touch.
Awesome, man. Have a good one.
Muy bien, entonces esto ha sido todo por hoy. A todos los que nos acompañaron desde el otro lado y que nos acompañen como siempre en todas nuestras plataformas, muchísimas gracias por estar ahí. Recuerden seguirnos en absolutamente todos lados, @NFL No Huddle en Twitter, la misma dirección en Instagram y Facebook. No Huddle OK es nuestro Twitch, y si nos están viendo desde nuestro canal de YouTube, No Huddle, No olviden de suscribirse, dar me gusta al video y todos esos procedimientos, así vencemos al maldito algoritmo. A todos los que nos acompañaron del otro lado, a Diego Dupont y a mí, muchísimas gracias por estar del otro lado, a Fernando Apa por estar en la técnica. Abrazo grande para todos. Chau, chau.